You believe your limitations are real, that the weight you carry is yours to bear. I am here to tell you that everything you accept as a blockage, a hindrance, a lack of energy, is a shadow cast by a mistaken belief. It has no substance, no permanence, and no power save the power you grant it by your own consent. For the next 5 days, we are not adding anything to your life. We are undertaking a sacred subtraction. We are going to the source of all energy, to the one divine flow, and we will watch as every obstacle, every last one, is revealed for what it truly is, nothing. And when you see it as nothing, it vanishes from your experience. This is not slow work. It is the instantaneous recognition of truth, and it works with a speed that will startle you. What you will discover here is not a method, but a revelation. You will see through the illusion of a separate, struggling self and come to rest in the infinite wellspring of your being. This is the great awakening to the energy that has never been blocked, only overlooked. If this speaks to that in you which knows it is free, then take this first step as a sacred act. Subscribe to this channel and join this conscious communion. Then comment with the number 111, not as a mere symbol, but as your inner affirmation of new beginnings, declaring your readiness for this divine uncovering to commence. The recognition begins not with a grand external event, but in the quiet moments of your own perceived lack. Consider that familiar sensation you call fatigue at midday, that mental fog you accept as your own limitation, or the simmering resentment you feel when a demand is placed upon you, the immediate inner tightening that whispers, "I have nothing left to give." You have labeled these experiences as your personal energy blockages, solid and real. You have built a life around navigating them, conserving your supposed resources, and protecting your fragile vitality from a world that seems designed to deplete it. This entire framework, this entire struggle, is built upon one fundamental assumption: that you are a separated container of energy, vulnerable to being drained and blocked by forces outside of yourself. What if this foundational assumption is the primary error? What if the very lens through which you view your life is casting the shadow you are trying to escape? The work, then, is not to fix the shadow, but to adjust your position relative to the light. Every so-called blockage, the procrastination, the lack of motivation, the chronic tension in your shoulders, the feeling of being emotionally drained after a conversation, is not a thing in itself. It is an effect, a symptom of looking away from the source. It is like feeling cold and dark because you have turned your back to the sun, then laboring to manufacture your own heat and light through tremendous personal effort, all the while believing the cold is your own true condition. You are attempting to solve a problem within the dream, instead of awakening from the dream of separation itself. The weariness you feel is not a sign of a blocked energy channel. It is the exhaustion of the personal sense of self, the I, striving to be its own source. It is the strain of a character in a play trying to generate the electricity for the stage lights. unaware of the infinite power grid that exists beyond the set. This is where the thrill of true spiritual work begins, not with a gradual improvement, but with a sudden and radical shift of attention. It happens in an instant. You are in the midst of that familiar tightening, perhaps stuck in traffic, feeling the rise of frustration, labeling it as a drain on your peace. And in a moment of simple, quiet willingness, you stop. You seize all mental arguments with the circumstance. You do not try to replace frustration with peace. You simply turn from the feeling. You look not at the traffic, not at the emotion, but through them toward the very awareness that is beholding them. You ask, in that sacred silence, what is it that is aware of this frustration? What is the nature of this conscious presence that knows the feeling, the thought, the sound of the horn? In that inquiry, a subtle but monumental event occurs. You are no longer identified as the frustrated person in the car. You have become the space in which the frustration appears. And as the space, you are untouched by the content. You realize the frustration, like a cloud, has no solidity. It is a temporary formation appearing in the vast, clear sky of your own awareness. And the sky is not blocked by the cloud is permitted to float within the sky. This is the instantaneous recognition. The blockage was never in your energy, it was in your identification. The moment you cease to identify as the container, you are revealed as the boundless continent. The feeling doesn't necessarily vanish instantly, but its power to define you, to be your reality, is severed. It is seen for the phantom it is. Now, translate this to a deeper, more persistent pattern. Consider a long-standing sense of unworthiness, a feeling that you are not enough, that you must hide or perform. This feels like a profound blockage to the flow of love and creativity. See it as that same cloud, just darker and more persistent. Apply the same radical surgery of attention. When the feeling arises, do not analyze its childhood roots. Do not fight it. Turn your gaze to the one who is conscious of the feeling. Abide as that consciousness. You will discover a shocking truth. The feeling of unworthiness is made of thought and memory, but the consciousness aware of it is whole, pristine, and completely impartial. It does not share the characteristic of the feeling. It is not unworthy. It simply is. By abiding as that, you stop feeding the phantom with your identity. The old pattern, deprived of its central role in your self definition, begins to lose its coherence. It may return, but each time you meet it not as a truth, but as an appearance in the field of your true nature. Its substance thins. You are not clearing a blockage. You are waking up to the fact that what you are can never be blocked. This is the continuous practice, to live from the continent, not the container. To walk through your day as the open sky, not the passing weather. When a colleague speaks to you with condescension, feel the initial sting, the old energy of defense rising. Then, in the gap between the stimulus and the habitual reaction, remember, I am not the one being stung. I am the awareness prior to the sting. Abide there, the reactive energy having no self to latch on to loses its momentum. It dissipates back into the space from which it came. You may still respond, but the response will come from clarity, not from the blocked energy of hurt pride. You will find a word, an action, that you could not have planned from the closed state. This is the divine flow expressing itself through the cleared channel of a surrendered mind. The energy was never yours to begin with. It is life's, God's, the infinite's. Your only task is to stop insisting on being a separate reservoir with limited capacity. You are the conduit for the limitless. The only blockage is the valve of your own personal sense, the I, me, mine, that constricts the flow. Open the valve by forgetting yourself, and the torrent of grace does the rest. You will move through your days not by mustering personal power, but by getting out of the way. Decisions become clear, actions become effortless, not because you have more energy, but because you are no longer spending all your energy maintaining the illusion of a separate, vulnerable self. To move from the illusion of personal limitation into the boundless flow of divine energy requires a profound reorientation of our entire approach. We have spent a lifetime in sacred addition, believing that our fulfillment, our peace, our power would come from acquiring more knowledge, more techniques, more positive attributes, more spiritual accomplishments. We have stacked practice upon practice, book upon book, in a sincere but misguided effort to build a self that is worthy, whole, and capable. This very effort, this building and adding, is the activity that casts the deepest shadow, for it reinforces the central figure of the separate seeker, the I, that must improve. The transformation we speak of is not an improvement of that self. It is its disappearance in the light of what has always been present. This is the practice of sacred subtraction, the undoing, the letting fall away of everything you thought you were to reveal what you eternally are. Imagine your consciousness as a room cluttered with furniture. Each piece of furniture represents a cherished belief about yourself. I am a person who gets anxious under pressure. I am someone who needs 8 hours of sleep to function. I am not a naturally joyful person. Must protect my energy from certain people. You have arranged your entire life around navigating this cluttered space. The spiritual path of addition is like bringing in more furniture, a new affirmation, a new healing crystal, a new meditation cushion, hoping to arrange the clutter better. But the space remains confined. Sacred subtraction is the radical act of stopping all this interior decoration. It is sitting quietly and beginning to question the very substance of each piece. Is this anxiety a solid, real thing that is part of my eternal being, or is it a passing vibration of thought and sensation that I have named, claimed, and furnished a whole corner for? The moment you question its permanence, its reality, you do not fight it. You simply stop believing it is a necessary part of the room. You see it as a temporary object, not as a structural wall. Take a daily example. The moment you wake up feeling a vague sense of dread about the day ahead, the old practice of addition would have you reach for a tool, Recite a mantra, visualize a positive outcome, try to raise your vibration. These are all actions of the self upon the self. The practice of subtraction is utterly different. You lie there and you do nothing to the feeling. You refuse to label it my dread. You simply observe it as a phenomenon appearing in the aware space of your morning consciousness. You do not try to push it out or replace it with light. You inquire gently, to what is this feeling appearing? You turn your attention not to the content, but to the context. You abide as the aware space itself. In that evidence, a miraculous shift occurs. The feeling, unopposed and unowned, begins to lose its coherence. It may still be present, but it is no longer central. It is like a knot in the air. When you stop tightening it with your identification, it begins to loosen on its own. You have not added peace. You have subtracted the you that was troubled. The peace was always there as the fundamental nature of the space. This subtraction is applied to the most ingrained structures of identity. Consider your relationship with a difficult person in your life. You have built an entire persona around this relationship, the long-suffering one, the righteous one, the victim, the fixer. Every interaction is filtered through this cluttered room of history and reaction. Sacred subtraction here means going into an encounter having consciously let fall away all those accumulated pieces. You walk into the room not as the character from your shared history, but as bare, anonymous awareness. You listen not from your story, but from the silent space prior to story. When the habitual reaction arises, the defensiveness, the irritation, you do not adopt it as yours. You see it as a piece of old furniture floating by. Because you are not sitting in it, because you are not claiming it, your response is not born from it. Your words may be the same words you might have said before, but they will be empty of the old charge. They will carry a different energy, the energy of the space itself, which is intelligence and love. The relationship cannot remain the same because you have ceased to be your side of the equation. The ultimate subtraction is the letting go of the seeker itself. You spend years seeking God, seeking enlightenment, seeking healing. The thrilling, almost disorienting truth is that what you seek is the seeker. The I that is longing for freedom is itself the only contraction, the only thing that seems to stand between you and the boundless freedom that is your nature. So the final, most sacred act is to subtract this central figure. In meditation, this is not an act of violence, but of supreme relaxation. You are not trying to annihilate yourself. You are simply ceasing to endorse the thought stream that says, I am meditating, I am seeking silence. You let even the meditator dissolve. What remains is not a blank void, but a vibrant, intelligent, peaceful presence that was there before the thought, I, arose. You discover you are not a drop seeking the ocean. You are the ocean momentarily imagining itself as a drop. The subtraction of the drop reveals the ocean that was never absent. This is the uncluttered room. This is the cleared channel. From here, life is lived not by a constructed self, but by the divine impulse itself. moving as your action, speaking as your word, loving as your heart. All that is required is the continuous, gentle willingness to not add, to not claim, to not build, but to simply be as the space that you are. The moment you begin to live as the uncluttered space of awareness, a fundamental shift occurs in the source of your activity. No longer does motion spring from the cramped and calculated efforts of a personal will, a sense of I, that must strive, overcome, and achieve. That old paradigm is the very essence of blockage, a laboring against imagined walls. The new movement, the true flow, comes from an altogether different dimension. It is the movement of life itself, of divine intelligence, expressing itself spontaneously through the form you call you. Your entire relationship with action, decision, and energy is revolutionized. You are no longer the pitcher trying to pour from an empty vessel. You are the open channel through which the infinite wellspring pours forth. This is the transition from personal effort to divine flow, a shift so profound it turns struggle into grace and effort into inspiration. Consider the common experience of creative work. Perhaps you need to write a report, solve a complex problem, or have a difficult conversation. The old way, the way of personal effort, feels like a mental wrestling match. You sit down and you try. You grip the task with your will. You strain against resistance. You feel the mounting pressure of time and expectation. Your brow furrows, your shoulders tense. You are at war with the work itself, and the energy you expend feels like a finite resource being rapidly depleted. This is the self trying to be the source. Now, contrast this with the approach from the standpoint of the open channel. You begin not by forcing, but by relinquishing. You take a conscious moment to settle into the space of awareness, to release the personal identity of the one who must do this. You acknowledge the task not as a burden upon you, but as a phenomenon appearing within the boundless field of consciousness. Then you wait. This is not passive, it is intensely active receptivity. You listen. You are listening for the impulse, the first movement of intelligence from within the silence, and it comes. It may be a single word that pops into your mind, seemingly from nowhere. It may be a sudden, clear understanding of the first step. You follow that impulse. You write that word. You take that step. Then you listen again. The next impulse arises. You follow. What you are experiencing is not your personal intellect laboring in isolation. It is the infinite intelligence of the universe organizing itself through the instrument of a quieted mind. The task unfolds not as a linear battle, but as a spontaneous revelation. The energy you feel is not your own nervous energy. It is a calm, sustained current that does not produce fatigue, because you are not generating it. You are being moved by it. The difference is not in the outward activity, but in the inner posture. One is a state of contraction and friction. The other is a state of alignment and allowing. This principle transforms even the most mundane routines. Driving in traffic is no longer a contest of your patience against the world. It becomes an opportunity to be the still, observant space through which the scene of cars and highways flows. From that space, an appropriate action arises, a lane change, a moment of braking, but it happens smoothly, almost intuitively, without the clenching narrative of my hurry or their incompetence. In conversation, you stop preparing your next argument while the other person speaks. You become the silent, listening presence. From that deep listening, a response formulates itself, a response that often surprises you with its wisdom or compassion. A response you could not have calculated because it did not come from your stored library of personal reactions. It came from the intelligence of the situation itself, flowing through the openness you provided. The most profound application is in the realm of healing and emotional turmoil. When a wave of grief, fear, or anger crashes over you, the personal effort approach is to manage it, to analyze it, to fix it, or to suppress it. This is you, as a limited entity, trying to handle a storm with a bucket. It is exhausting and futile. Shifting to the divine flow means you immediately cease all management. You turn your attention fully toward the feeling, not as its owner, but as the open sky that welcomes the weather. You feel the sensation completely, without naming it, my sadness. You inquire, what is aware of this? You abide as that aware presence. From that position of being the space, not the content, a healing intelligence far greater than your personal self begins to operate. It is the same intelligence that mends a physical wound without your conscious direction. It flows into the emotional pattern, not to oppose it, but to transmute it through the sheer light of unconditional awareness. The emotion is not attacked. It is dissolved in a field vaster than itself. The action taken is not your anxious fixing, but the spontaneous, intelligent movement of life toward wholeness. This is the flow. Your only work is to remove the dam of a personal me that thinks it must be the source and the solver. When the dam is gone, the river does the rest, carrying all debris before it with a power that is both gentle and irresistible. You are that river when you are not insisting on being the separate stone upon the bank. The power of this recognition is not in its gradual accumulation, like knowledge stored in the mind, but in its instantaneous nature. It is a lightning strike of truth that incinerates the illusion of time when it comes to your freedom. We have been conditioned to believe that spiritual awakening is a slow process, a meticulous cleansing of layers over years or lifetimes. This very belief is a subtle trap of the personal self, which seeks to extend its tenure by making the journey long and arduous. But what is being pointed to is not a destination to be reached through steps. It is your present reality obscured only by a single, persistent misidentification. The clearing of any so-called blockage, therefore, is not a process of repair. It is the immediate consequence of seeing through a falsehood. When you see that the snake in the path is only a rope, the fear vanishes not after a period of therapy, but in the very instant of true seeing. This is the startling speed of spiritual recognition. This means that the heaviness you have carried for years, The chronic anxiety, the deep-seated sense of lack, has no more inherent permanence than a dream does upon waking. Its seeming solidity is granted solely by your continued belief in its reality. The moment you truly recognize it as a dream, image, a configuration of thought and sensation appearing in you, but not of you, its binding power is shattered. It may return to your field of awareness, but it returns as a known phantom, no longer mistaken for the substance of your being. This is why this work can be so fast. You are not slowly chipping away at a stone wall. You are flipping a switch from darkness to light. The darkness did not have to be painstakingly gathered and removed. It was simply the absence of light. Your recognition is the light. See this in a practical, daily confrontation. You are about to enter a meeting where you must present an idea you feel vulnerable about. The old, familiar clutch of anxiety begins in your stomach, a tight, knotted sensation. The personal self immediately claims it. Here is my fear of judgment. I must calm it down. I must perform well to overcome it. This is the process-oriented view, and it keeps you locked in battle with the sensation, ensuring it remains central. Now apply the instantaneous recognition. In the very moment the clutch is felt, you stop. You do not follow the story of my fear. You turn your attention 180 degrees away from the content of the feeling and toward the actual, raw sensation itself. Feel the tightness purely as a pattern of energy, a vibration. Now, take one step further back. Ask, what is it that is aware of this vibration? Do not answer conceptually. Rest as the knowingness itself. In that rest, a separation occurs. You are no longer in the knot. You are the space knowing the knot. And in that clear space of knowing, a revelation dawns. This sensation is not anxiety. That is a story. It is merely a sensation. And it is not hindering you, for you are the awareness prior to it. In that flash of recognition, the clutch loses its identity. It may still vibrate, but it is empty of meaning, empty of threat. It is a cloud passing. The shift took a second. The blockage, which was the identification with the feeling, was cleared not in time, but in timeless awareness. This instantaneous power is available for the deepest wounds. A memory surfaces, bringing with it a flood of shame from an event decades past. The old way is to enter the memory, re-fight the battle, re-feel the pain, and try to heal it through understanding or forgiveness, a lengthy inner drama. The way of recognition is to see the entire event, the memory, the images, the shame, as objects appearing on the screen of your present awareness. Your awareness is the screen. Is the screen ashamed? Is the screen damaged by the movie playing upon it? Of course not. The recognition is that you are the screen, pristine and untouched, not the tragic movie. This seeing is immediate. It does not require you to rewrite the movie. It simply reveals the inviolable nature of the screen upon which all movies play. The shame, seen in this light, is deprived of its anchor. It may arise again, but each time it is met with this same recognition. This is content. I am the context. The emotional charge is drained not by years of processing, but by the persistent light of truth. This is the thrilling secret. Freedom is always one recognition away. It is not a matter of time, but of focus. You are not working toward a future state of clarity. You are unveiling the clarity that is your eternal condition right now. The only thing that seems to make it slow is the habit of turning away from this recognition, of lapsing back into the familiar identity of the sufferer, the seeker, the one with a past. But each moment offers a fresh opportunity for the lightning strike. The moment you feel contraction, no matter its name, anger, boredom, insecurity, that is your signal. That is the rope mistaken for a snake. Do not analyze the rope. Do not meditate on how the rope got there. Simply look again with full attention. See it as rope. In that seeing, the fear vanishes, and with it, the blockage that fear constructed. The energy that was bound up in maintaining the false identity is instantaneously released. It was never bound in the first place. It was only misdirected by a thought. When the thought is seen through, the energy is free, and it is recognized as what it always was, the unimpeded, intelligent, and loving flow of your own true nature, expressing itself here and now. This awakening reveals a truth so fundamental it redefines existence. The energy you have been seeking, straining to conserve, and lamenting the lack of, has never been absent, never been blocked, only perpetually overlooked. The search itself was the oversight. We have been like a man in a sunlit room, frantically searching for a lamp, convinced he is in darkness, while all the while the radiant light of day floods every corner. He does not see the light because he is looking for a smaller, manageable source he can call his own. Your inherent energy is not a commodity you possess. It is the very substance of what you are. It is the animating intelligence behind every heartbeat, the conscious presence reading these words, the boundless space in which the entire drama of your life unfolds. To speak of blocking it is as absurd as the sky blocking the sky. The sense of blockage arises only when attention becomes fixated upon the clouds, the thoughts, emotions, and sensations, and forgets the vast, cloudless expanse that holds them. Feel this in the most ordinary moments. You are walking through a park, lost in a stream of worries about the future. Your body is tense, your breathing shallow. You would describe your energy as low, drained by your concerns. This is the state of overlooking. Now, something captures your senses, a bird's sudden song, the cool touch of wind on your skin, the dappled pattern of light through leaves. For one unguarded instant, your mental narrative stops. You are simply there, fully present, perceiving. In that instant, notice what happens to your sense of energy. There is no longer a drained person walking. There is just walking, just hearing, just feeling. A vitality is present that feels fresh and inexhaustible. Where did it come from? It did not come from anywhere. It was revealed when the obsessive focus on the cloud of thought temporarily ceased, and you, perhaps without realizing it, rested as the expanse. That vitality is your native state. It was not created by the bird's song. The bird's song simply provided the gentle nudge that shifted your attention from the cloud to the sky. The energy was never gone. This is the crucial pivot, moving from trying to fix or manage your energy levels to recognizing yourself as the source. The former is the endless task of the personal self, like trying to paint the ocean blue while submerged within it. The latter is the simple, profound act of cessation, of stopping the effort to be a separate reservoir. When you feel that afternoon slump, that mental fog, the old pattern is to reach for a stimulant, coffee, a sugary snack, a frantic mental pep talk. This is you as a character trying to inject energy into the scene. The recognition of your inherent energy follows a different path. You pause. You feel the slump fully, the heaviness in the body, the dullness in the mind. Instead of declaring it, my fatigue, you inquire, what is aware of this heaviness? What is the nature of this consciousness that knows the feeling of dullness? You are not asking the tired mind to answer. You are pointing attention back to its origin. As you rest as that knowing presence, a subtle but profound distinction emerges. The heaviness is an object. The awareness is the subject. And you are that. In this recognition, a curious thing happens. The sense of being a tired person begins to dissolve. The energy of pure awareness, which is clarity itself, begins to infuse the experience. It does not violently erase the bodily sensation. It pervades it with a knowing light. The sensation may remain, but it is no longer draining, because it is no longer central to your identity. You are the aware space, and the aware space is inherently vibrant, intelligent, and awake. Apply this to a more profound sense of depletion, emotional burnout from caring for others, or the deep weariness that follows a period of grief. The personal self is utterly overwhelmed, its resources spent. To try to get your energy back, from this standpoint, is like a bankrupt company trying to issue its own currency. It has no credibility. But the truth is, you are not that bankrupt entity. You are the ground of being upon which the entire experience of burnout is playing out. By shifting your identity from the exhausted character in the drama to the silent witness of the stage, you contact a dimension of energy that is not of the personal realm. This is not emotional excitement or physical vigor. It is the steady, unwavering flame of conscious presence. It is the peace that passes understanding, and it holds the fatigue within it without being consumed by it. From this position, action can arise again, making a meal, offering a word of comfort, but it arises from the fullness of this presence, not from the emptiness of a depleted persona. The action is then imbued with a quality of grace and sustainability that personal effort could never muster. This is the great homecoming, to stop seeking the stream and to realize you are the ocean. Every apparent blockage, every low tide, was just a shift in perspective, a wave momentarily forgetting its watery nature. The wave does not need to solve its blockage. It needs to remember it is the ocean. Your practice, then, is this constant, gentle remembering. In traffic, remember you are the space, not the frustration. In conflict, remember you are the awareness, not the anger. In exhaustion, remember you are the knowing, not the fatigue. Each remembrance is not an achievement, but a surrender of the false for the real. And in that surrender, the infinite energy that you are ceases to be overlooked and stands revealed, not as a personal possession, but as the very light of consciousness in which all of life, with all its apparent challenges and joys, brilliantly and eternally appears. This final cornerstone is not an isolated practice, but the natural atmosphere of the awakened life, a conscious communion. It is the understanding that as you cease to operate from the isolated sense of a separate self, you do not retreat into solitude, but actually enter into a profound and living relationship with all that is. The personal I is a barrier, a membrane that seems to divide you from the world, from others, and from the divine source. When that membrane is seen through, what remains is not a void, but a vibrant, intelligent connectivity. You are no longer a speaker trying to broadcast your signal into a silent universe. You become a conscious node in an infinite, humming network of intelligence. Your every thought, when it arises from silence and not from ego, is a reception and a transmission within this communion. Your every action becomes a sacred gesture performed not by you, but through you, by the one life expressing itself in multitude. This transforms the most trivial interactions. Consider your daily exchange with a barista, a colleague, or a stranger on the street. From the personal standpoint, these are transactions between separate entities, often tinged with assessment, projection, or indifference. You are locked in your own story, and they are characters in the periphery. But from the stance of conscious communion, the separation softens. You look at the other, and without sentimentality, you sense the same conscious presence looking back from behind their eyes. You are not meeting a personality. You are meeting life itself in another form. Your words and actions then arise not from your personal script, but from a spontaneous intelligence that serves the wholeness of the moment. A kindness may flow, a necessary truth may be spoken, or a simple silence may be shared, all with an effortless rightness that leaves no residue of friction. This is not social technique. It is the natural functioning of unity recognized. Take this into a charged domestic situation. A family member speaks to you from their own frustration, a criticism laced with old pain. The personal self immediately mobilizes its defenses. It feels attacked. It prepares a counter-argument. It walls itself off. This is the drama of separate selves clashing. Conscious communion invites a different response. As the words come toward you, you feel the initial reactive pull in your gut, but you do not become it. You abide as the open space of awareness. From that space, you listen not just to the words, but to the pain speaking through the words. You are no longer listening as an opponent, but as awareness listening to itself in another form. Your response, when it comes, is not a defense of your position. It might be a simple, quiet acknowledgement of their feeling. I hear how upsetting this is for you. Such a response does not come from a strategy manual. It is what the intelligence of the situation, flowing through your unblocked channel, naturally produces. It disarms the separate, self-dynamic, and opens a door to genuine connection. The interaction becomes part of the communion, not a rupture within it. This principle extends to your relationship with the world itself, with your work, your environment, even with what you call problems. When you work from the personal self, your job is a means to an end, a place to prove yourself, a source of stress or identity. You are pitted against tasks and deadlines. In conscious communion, your work becomes a location where the infinite expresses a particular facet of its creativity. You approach your desk, your tools, your responsibilities with a sense of sacred collaboration. You ask silently, how would this task be accomplished by the intelligence that formed the galaxies? Then you listen. You become the instrument through which a report is written, a design is conceived, a patient is comforted. The fatigue of personal striving falls away because you are not carrying the burden of being the sole source. You are cooperating with a source that is everywhere present. A problem is no longer a hostile object blocking your path. It is an invitation for the creative intelligence of the universe to manifest a solution through the openness of your mind. Ultimately, this communion is your direct link to the divine, to the source of all that is. Prayer, from this understanding, is not a petition sent outward, but a quiet alignment, an inner tuning fork struck, so that it may resonate with the infinite frequency. Meditation is not an escape from the world, but a deep immersion into the silent substance that is the world. In every moment of turning within, of resting as awareness, you are not leaving the communion, you are going to its very heart. You are joining the conscious circle where no you stands apart. To subscribe to this channel, then, is not to follow a personality, but to formally join this circle of awakening, to declare your intent to live from this truth. And to comment with the number 888 is not a superstition, but a powerful symbolic act. It is the numeral of infinity laid on its side, a conscious choice to inscribe the eternal flow into this moment, affirming your recognition that you are not a separate seeker, but an integral, conscious part of the boundless, ever communicating whole. This is the commitment to live as the communion, letting every breath be a conversation with the divine, every encounter a sacrament, and every challenge an opportunity for the one intelligence to reveal its flawless, unified action.